Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are strapping in for an exploration of what feels like the absolute engine of human change.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Our mission is to really understand how the most effective self-improvement systems are built. And the key is they're not built on these massive, painful sacrifices.
Not at all. They're built on tiny, incremental actions. We're talking about making success, almost inevitable.
Inevitable, attractive, and nearly effortless just by installing the right infrastructure.
That's right. And I think for anyone who has struggled with motivation or, felt completely overwhelmed by these huge goals, this deep dive it's crucial.
Mm.
We're taking a stack of material that reveals the powerful mechanics of change. And it's really focused on systems, not just targets. And the core concept we're tackling is the atomic habit.
And the definition here is so important. When we say atomic, we're not just saying small.
No, it's more than that.
We mean irreducible, the single indivisible unit of a larger system. These aren't seismic shifts in behavior. They're tiny daily decisions that I think most people just overlook because they seem too insignificant on any given day.
Right. They don't seem to matter in the moment. But the sources show, conclusively, that the magic is in the accumulation over time.
So if you're out there struggling to build new routines, the problem isn't you.
No, absolutely not. You are likely suffering from a misapprehension of how progress actually works. We all tend to overestimate the importance of one defining moment.
And we dramatically underestimate the value of just making a 1% improvement every single day.
Precisely.
And the math behind this is the ultimate hook, I think, because it makes this whole process so attractive to anyone seeking change. It just reveals this enormous power of compound returns. So walk us through it, this nonlinear power of just 1%.
Okay, so if you manage to improve by just 1% every day for a year, the calculation is pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's 1.01 raised to the power of 365. The compounding effect means you end up 37 times better than when you started.
37 times. I mean, that sounds almost fictional when you think about how little effort 1% feels like on a Monday morning.
It's an astounding leap. 37.78 times better, to be exact. Now, compare that to a linear progression.
Okay.
If progress were just additive, just stacking that 1% on top of the last one every day, you would only be about 3.5 times better off.
So 3.65 times.
Right. And that gap, the difference between 3.65 and 37.78, that is the power differential between someone who understands and implements small, consistent habits.
And someone who's just waiting for that big leap of motivation or effort that never comes.
Exactly. And this is why habits are so often called the compound interest of self-improvement.
They're really the only strategy that leverages exponential growth, not just linear progress.
Yeah.
And that right there is what makes it so attractive. It offers a guaranteed pathway, a system to these incredible long-term results, even if the daily input feels negligible.
It completely shifts the focus from setting these ambitious goals that just invite immediate burnout to building reliable systems that make success, well, almost inevitable.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the foundation of this kind of change. The aggregation of marginal gains. And there's a famous but incredibly detailed case study for this.
So there is.
Our sources give us a perfect, almost unbelievable case study. British cycling. Before 2008, the state of British professional cycling was, frankly, abysmal.
Abysmal is a good word for it.
Yeah.
For nearly a century, since 1908, they had won only a single Olympic gold medal.
One gold medal in 100 years.
And in 110 years of the sport's existence, 0 Tour de France victories.
0.
The environment was just steeped in mediocrity. This wasn't just a lack of funding. It was a deep, deep cultural rut. The reputation was so poor that famously, one top European bike manufacturer refused to sell the team bicycles.
They wouldn't even sell them bikes. Why?
They were afraid that if British Cycling used their gear, it would hurt the manufacturer's global reputation for quality.
Wow, so they were actively being avoided by success. That's a real low point.
It is. But then came Dave Brailsford, hired as the performance director. And his philosophy was not about finding one star athlete or one massive technological breakthrough.
He championed this idea, the aggregation of marginal gains.
Right. Searching for a tiny margin of improvement, specifically 1%, in absolutely everything they did, expected or not.
And that's a crucial distinction, isn't it? Most people look for the big 50% improvement.
Yes, exactly. Brailsford looked for 100 things he could improve by 1%. So they started with the obvious stuff. Redesigning bike seats for optimal comfort, rubbing alcohol on the tires before races
For what? Better grip?
for a fraction of a percent better grip. They tested dozens of fabrics in a wind tunnel to find the most aerodynamic material,
Yeah.
but then they went deep.
This is where it gets interesting because it's where the average person stops looking for improvement.
Completely. They
Yeah.
started finding 1% improvements in overlooked areas that had nothing to do with the bicycle itself. Like they hired a surgeon
A surgeon for a cycling team.
just to teach the riders the best, most hygienic way to wash their hands.
Okay, hold on. To wash their hands, the idea being to reduce colds.
To reduce the chances of catching a cold or infection, which would cost them training time. A lost training day is a performance loss.
That is next level thinking. What else?
Oh, they tested which type of massage gel offered the fastest muscle recovery. They brought in specific pillows and mattresses tailored to the precise needs of each individual rider.
So not just one team mattress, but personalized sleep systems.
Personalized sleep systems to ensure they all got the absolute best night's sleep possible, a massive variable in recovery. They even trained the riders to shoot arrows.
Shoot arrows. How does that help you ride a bike?
To improve concentration and focus under pressure, it's about training the mind, not just the body.
And my favorite example of this hyper-detail orientation. They painted the inside of the team truck white.
Yeah.
Not gray, not black, but white. Why?
So they could more easily spot tiny bits of dust or dirt on the floor.
Right, which might normally go unnoticed.
But could potentially degrade the finely tuned performance components of the bikes when they are being transported or serviced. It's this relentless, holistic pursuit of tiny improvements.
Okay, so what was the outcome of all this obsessive detail?
It was immediate and utterly decisive. It was not marginal at all. Just 5 years after Brailsford took over, the British cycling team completely dominated the 2008 Beijing Olympics.
Dominated how?
They won an astounding 60% of the available gold medals in road and track cycling.
60%.
4 years later, in London, they set 9 Olympic and 7 world records. And between 2012 and 2017, they achieved 5 Tour de France victories in 6 years.
So that 1% philosophy, compounded daily across hundreds of small variables, it literally created an unstoppable system.
It did?
The lesson here is profound.
Yeah.
If you improve 100 variables by 1%, you've essentially improved the entire system by 100%, which brings us to the double-edged sword of habits. Once you realize how powerfully these things compound, you realize they are a force working either for you or, well, against you. Time becomes your most potent ally or your fiercest enemy.
Exactly. When we talk about positive compounding, we talk about knowledge, right? Every book you read opens up new ways of thinking about old ideas, and the connections build up like interest.
Right, or relationships. Being a little bit nicer or more responsive in each interaction over decades that builds a broad, strong social network.
Or money. Small investments, consistently made, turn into enormous long-term capital.
But we have to talk about the negative side, which is just as potent and often, I think, less visible until it's way too late.
Oh, absolutely. Stress compounds. Those small, manageable daily frustrations. The traffic jam, the low-grade worry about bills, slightly high blood pressure.
When they persist for years, they don't just add up.
They multiply. They multiply into serious health issues, anxiety disorders, and professional burnout.
And negative thoughts compound in the same way. If you're constantly telling yourself you're a failure,
The more you condition yourself to seek evidence that validates that worldview, you get trapped in this feedback loop. Small choices, repeatedly made, don't just affect your outcomes. They fundamentally change your reality.
and the crucial issue here, the thing that trips everyone up, is that the results are often delayed. This is the massive psychological hurdle. The sources call this the plateau of latent potential.
Yes, this is why people quit. They feel like they're working hard, putting in the effort, but they see no measurable change for weeks or months. So they conclude the effort is pointless, and they give up right before the breakthrough.
And this is where that patience and that nonlinear math come back in. You have to believe in the system even when the external results aren't confirming your effort. The ice cube analogy is perfect here.
Right. You're watching a block of ice heat up in a room. It goes from 27 degrees to 28, 29, 30, 31.
And nothing changes visually. You might think, this is useless, I'm putting in energy and seeing no progress.
And then, at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, the ice melts. That 1 degree shift, which seemed no different from the others, unlocked a massive visible change of state.
But the change wasn't sudden at all.
Not at all. It was the inevitable result of all the previous small increments building potential below the surface. We see this in nature all the time. Think about bamboo. It builds these extensive invisible root systems underground for 5 long years. It barely sends up a shoot.
And then when that foundation is finally ready.
It explodes, 90 feet into the air in just 6 weeks.
So the key is that mastery requires patience. It requires recognizing that the breakthrough moment, the 90-foot explosion, the melted ice, is the result of all the previous preparatory actions.
The famous stonecutter quote comes to mind. It's the 100 blows that didn't crack the stone that made the 101st blow possible. We have to, love the process of building potential.
And maintaining this patience is so much easier when your motivation is tied to something far deeper than just the external result.
It has to be tied to your identity.
This is the why for the learner. If your goal is purely outcome-based, I want to run a marathon, you'll quit when the pain of training exceeds the immediate excitement of the goal.
But if your goal is identity-based, I want to become a runner, then the pain, it actually becomes attractive.
Because it reinforces who you are. The habit is no longer a task, it's a validation.
Every single habit you perform is literally a vote for the person you wish to become. It's an act of self-definition.
So each time you write a page, you are casting a vote for writer.
And each time you choose the salad, you're casting a vote for healthy person. The results are just a lagging indicator of your identity.
This taps into a fundamental human need, right? Cognitive consistency.
Exactly. If you consistently vote for one identity, your brain faces this dissonance if you then act against that identity. So your brain naturally seeks to reduce that dissonance, making the identity-aligned behavior feel easier and more true.
And this is the ultimate intrinsic motivation. When the habit becomes part of your identity, it stops being something you have to do.
And becomes something you are. That moment of pride, that feeling of aligning action with your self-concept, that is incredibly powerful.
The anecdote of the man named Clark who stopped chewing his fingernails perfectly illustrates this shift. He'd used mindful willpower to let his nails grow out a bit, but the habit kept coming back.
Right. The change didn't stick until he got his first professional manicure.
And the manicurist paid him a genuine compliment, telling him he had really healthy, attractive nails.
And suddenly, he wasn't trying to avoid a negative habit, which was the chewing. He was trying to maintain a positive identity.
A man with attractive, cared-for nails.
He took pride in the appearance of his hands. So the habit was sustained because it was now inextricably linked to this positive self-concept, a new, desirable identity. He never chewed them again.
It wasn't the pain of the habit that drove him. It was the pleasure of the identity. And that is the foundation we're building on.
That's it.
Okay, so to leverage this power, we have to follow the 4 laws of behavior change. And the first law is simple, but really profound. Make it obvious. The cue. We often fail to change because we just run on autopilot.
Completely blind to the cues that trigger our habits, both good and bad.
That phenomenon is more common and I think more dangerous than we realize. Our brains are designed to automate routines to conserve cognitive energy. The sources tell this story of a retail clerk.
Right, who was trained to cut up used gift cards after processing them.
So one day, after running several gift card transactions in a row, the next customer used an actual credit card.
And the clerk, without thinking, swiped the credit card, picked up the scissors,
And then just cut it in half.
cut it entirely in half before the conscious mind could even catch up. That is the power of a routine running on autopilot.
So to break that cycle, the first step is conscious observation, the habit scorecard.
Yeah, you literally list every single behavior you perform throughout the day. Wake up, check phone, go to the bathroom, brush teeth, make coffee, and you score them.
You assign a plus, a minus, or an equal sign to each action. But this isn't just about time tracking, right?
No, the crucial part is the self-reflection. You have to pair that observation with the deep identity question. Does this behavior help me become the type of person I wish to be?
Does this habit cast a vote for or against my desired identity?
That's the critical check. For example, scrolling social media first thing in the morning might feel like a habit, neither good nor bad. But if your desired identity is a focused professional,
Then checking your phone first thing is a decisive minus.
it is, because it drains your attention reserves before the day even starts. It shifts the habit from a neutral action to an identity-detracting action.
Okay, so once you've scored your habits and you've identified where the friction points are, you need an actionable strategy to link new habits into the existing rhythm of your day.
And that's habit stacking.
It's a simple, elegant formula.
It is. It's based on leveraging existing cues. After current habit, I will new habit. This links the new behavior to a pre-established cue.
So it makes it obvious when and where to perform the action.
And crucially, it uses the momentum of the existing habit to propel the new one. For example, instead of saying, I will meditate, which is vague.
You say, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 60 seconds.
Exactly. The act of pouring the coffee is a clear, unavoidable cue that immediately triggers the next very small action. It prevents those moments of hesitation where the brain tries to choose the path of least resistance.
This strategy also works brilliantly when you're designing your physical environment for success. You make the desirable choice the most obvious one, like the hospital cafeteria study.
Oh, that's a great example. Researchers were trying to get staff to drink less soda and more water.
And they didn't put up posters or start some health lecture campaign.
No, they just used environment design. They added bottled water as an option right next to the cash registers, which had previously only stocked soda.
And they put baskets of water near all the food stations.
And the change in visibility was dramatic. Without changing anyone's willpower or motivation, soda sales dropped by 11.4%.
While bottled water sales increased by, what was it?
25.8%. And the key takeaway is that people often choose products not because of what they are or how healthy they are, but simply because of where they are. The environment acts as an invisible hand.
It shapes our behavior by making some cues hyper-obvious and others invisible, which flows perfectly into the second law, make it attractive. The craving.
Right.
If the first law is about sight, this law is about desire. This is where we learn how to hijack our brain's motivational system to make positive change desirable. This is critical for sustained improvement.
It is. We need to understand that habits are fundamentally driven by desire, and that desire is fueled by the dopamine engine. For many years, scientists assumed dopamine was purely about pleasure.
We now know that's wrong.
Yeah, completely wrong. Dopamine plays a central, far more important role in motivation, anticipation, and wanting.
That distinction between wanting and liking is profound.
It is. Dopamine isn't released just when you experience pleasure, the liking. It actually spikes before you take action, right when the cue is recognized.
So that spike is the craving. It's the engine that drives the behavior.
The anticipation of the reward is the primary motivator, not the reward itself. The famous rat experiment illustrates this neurological difference perfectly.
Tell us about that.
So researchers depleted dopamine in one group of rats and then gave them sugar. The dopamine-depleted rats still smiled pleasurably when they tasted the sugar. They still liked it. But they lacked the desire, the wanting, to seek it out or move toward it. They would literally starve if food wasn't placed directly next to them. Without desire, action just stops.
Wow. And the other group?
Meanwhile, mice that were flooded with dopamine developed cravings so strong they would poke their nose in a reward box 800 times per hour, driven purely by the wanting.
800 times. So if we can make a desired action create that anticipatory spike of dopamine, we can drive action effortlessly.
And our brain has far more neural circuitry allocated for wanting rewards than for liking them. We are wired primarily for wanting, which is why we have to make good habits attractive. We have to hijack that huge dopamine drive.
And this challenge is just intensified in the modern world because we're genetically prone to gravitate toward what the sources call supernormal stimuli.
Exaggerated cues that bypass our rational decision-making because our ancient brains simply can't resist them. They're more exciting than reality.
You see this across species, like the carrying gull chicks.
Right, they naturally peck at the small red spot on their mother's beak to trigger feeding. When scientists replaced the mother's head with a cardboard stick that had 3 large, bright red dots painted on it.
The baby birds went into a feeding frenzy.
A frenzy, pecking compulsively at the exaggerated stimulus. Or the gray-lag goose. It instinctively rolls fallen eggs back into the nest. If you offer it a massive object like a volleyball,
It'll try to roll that back.
it will make a tremendous, exhausting effort to roll it back and sit on top because it is a supernormal stimulus for a very large, very healthy egg.
And this applies directly to us. Modern temptations exploit this ancient wiring.
All of them. Junk food is a supernormal stimulus because it provides a far more concentrated, pleasure-packed form of calories, salt, and sugar than anything found in nature.
Hard liquor is a supernormal stimulus for concentrated relaxation. Video games.
Supernormal stimulus for concentrated play, novelty, social validation. These pleasure-packed experiences are incredibly hard to resist because they are exaggerated versions of reality, hardwired to spike our dopamine higher and faster than a natural reward.
Like a quiet walk or saving $5.
Exactly. So if we want to build lasting change, we have to make our good habits feel like supernormal stimuli, or at least, make them attractive enough to compete.
And one of the most effective ways to do that is by leveraging social norms and conformity. Habits are attractive when they help us fit in with the people we admire.
Belonging is a primary motivator. We imitate three groups when we form habits: the close, the many, and the powerful.
We imitate the close because proximity is powerful. The sources mention a study showing that if one partner in a relationship successfully lost weight,
The other partner would also slim down about 1/3 of the time. We just soak up the qualities and practices of those we share space and time with.
which is why choosing the right tribe is so crucial. If you're surrounded by people who view fitness as a chore, you will too. If you join a group where working out is simply the expected social ritual,
The habit instantly becomes more attractive.
the most inspiring example is Mike Massimino's MIT robotics class, a small, high-achieving cohort.
And out of the 10 students in that room, 4 eventually became astronauts.
4 out of 10. Think
Yeah.
about that. If your goal is to make it into space, joining a room where 40% of the people achieve that is the best cultural reinforcement you could ever ask for.
The desired behavior, relentless focus, engineering discipline, it just becomes the normal behavior.
It changes the conversation from, should I study tonight, to, where are we all meeting to study?
Which leads to the fundamental power of culture. Nothing sustains motivation better than belonging to a tribe that values the identity you want to adopt. Look at the Polgar sisters.
Susan, Sophia, and Judith, the famous chess prodigies from Hungary.
Their father, Laszlo, raised them obsessively, teaching them chess as a central life skill. Judith became the youngest grandmaster of all time, younger than Bobby Fischer.
And when they were asked about their intense childhood practice, they didn't describe it as grueling or restrictive.
They said it was fun, it was enjoyable. Why?
Because they grew up in a culture, their immediate family, that valued chess above all else.
Success in chess wasn't a personal quest fought against in an indifferent environment. It was a shared, celebrated family identity. Their intense practice maintained its attractiveness because it was reinforced and valued by their culture.
It transforms the individual discipline into a shared, desirable system.
When you join a book club or a running group, your identity shifts from singular, I am a reader, to shared, we are readers, which reinforces your personal identity and makes the habit instantly attractive.
Which brings us to the third law. Make it easy. The response. Once you have the obvious cue and the attractive craving, you have to minimize the resistance. The action itself must be as frictionless as possible.
This is all driven by the law of least effort. Our brains are basically efficiency machines wired to conserve energy.
Because historically, energy conservation was vital for survival.
Exactly. When we're deciding between two similar options, we naturally gravitate toward the one that requires the least amount of work. Our true motivation is to do what is convenient.
So if the healthy choice requires more steps, more time, or more cognitive load than the unhealthy choice, we lose every single time. And this brings us to a critique that I think is essential for high achievers.
Oh, yes.
We have to critique the tendency to confuse motion with action.
People spend way too much time planning, reading motivational books, or researching equipment. That's motion.
And far too little time executing. That's action.
Motion feels productive. It makes us feel like we're preparing for change, but it never, ever yields results.
The sources recount the classic photography class study.
Right. The professor divided students into quantity and quality groups. The quality group was told they only needed to produce one perfect, flawless photo all semester for an A.
So they spent weeks speculating about lighting and composition and perfection.
The quantity group, on the other hand, was graded solely on the amount of work, 100 photos for an A. So they were constantly taking pictures, developing films, seeing what worked, and just moving on.
And by the end of the term,
All the best photos were produced by the quantity group. Why? They honed their skills through repetition, action, and learning from mistakes, while the quality group had little to show but unverified theories.
so the focus has to be on action, and that means reducing friction, addition by subtraction.
You shouldn't try to pump up your motivation to stick with a hard habit. That's exhausting. Instead, you remove the obstacles. You make the road smooth.
Look at the Japanese lean production model, which revolutionized manufacturing.
They relentlessly removed waste and friction from the assembly line. They redesigned workspaces so workers didn't waste time twisting to reach tools or walking unnecessary steps.
This elimination of microfriction led to vastly more reliable products and faster assembly times.
I mean, by 1979, American workers were taking 3 times as long to assemble their televisions compared to the Japanese. When you subtract wasted effort, you automatically add speed and reliability.
So for us, this means successful change often involves priming the environment to eliminate these microfrictions before the action needs to occur.
Like the Dutch researchers studying energy usage. They found that some homeowners use 30% less energy simply because their electrical meters were in obvious, easy-to-track locations.
So the meter being visible was an obvious cue that made tracking useful easy. It reduced the friction of checking consumption.
And we can apply this personally to anything. If you want to go running in the morning, lay your clothes out the night before.
If you want to practice guitar, leave it on the stand in the middle of the room, not packed away in its case in the closet.
Yes. The 5 seconds it takes to grab the guitar out of the closet is often enough friction to stop the action entirely.
I used to fall into that trap of buying apples and then letting them rot in the crisper drawer because they were out of sight. The friction was the 3 steps. Open the fridge, pull open the heavy drawer, dig them out.
And so you just didn't do it.
I didn't. Then I put them in a visible, attractive display bowl on the kitchen counter. Friction became 0, and I started eating several apples a day. The desired behavior became effortless.
This concept culminates in strategies like Oswald Nuckols's philosophy of resetting the room, which he calls proactive laziness.
Proactive laziness, I love that.
When he finishes watching TV, he puts the remote back, arranges the pillows, folds the blanket, not just to clean up, but to prepare for the next action.
He also wipes down the toilet while his shower warms up.
He optimizes his environment so the task is almost already done when he starts. He said, "People think I work hard, but I'm actually really lazy. I'm just proactively lazy."
So the goal isn't just to do only easy things, but to make it as easy as possible in the moment to do the things that deliver results in the long run.
That is critical. Proactive laziness means you invest 5 minutes tonight to save yourself 20 minutes of internal negotiation tomorrow morning. You make the system easy, and that makes it attractive to those who want sustainable change.
Finally, we reach the 4th law. Make it satisfying. The reward. And the difficulty here is overcoming the immediate versus delayed return gap.
Our ancient brains evolved in an immediate return environment. We were focused on securing the next meal, taking shelter, avoiding immediate danger. We were wired for quick payoffs.
But modern society is a delayed return environment. Career planning, retirement savings, long-term health benefits that might not materialize for decades.
So we suffer from what's called time inconsistency. Our brains consistently prefer immediate gratification, even if the delayed return, like saving $100,000, is objectively better than the immediate return.
Like buying that new gadget today? Because positive atomic habits often have distant rewards. Health, wealth, they are inherently unsatisfying in the short term.
So the trick is to find a way to create immediate satisfaction for actions that yield those delayed returns. We need to manufacture a positive sensory experience to reinforce the habit instantly.
The study led by Stephen Luby in Karachi, Pakistan, is the perfect example of bridging this gap.
It is. Residents already knew hand washing was important, but they weren't doing it consistently because of habit friction and poor sanitation.
So Luby and his team, they didn't waste time with guilt or warnings.
No, they provided a new soap that was specifically engineered to foam easily and smell great, a strong, attractive scent.
So residents started saying how much they liked the soap and the fresh feeling it left.
And this minor pleasure, the strong positive sensory signal and the feeling of cleanliness, provided an immediate positive reinforcement after the act of washing. Within months, child diarrhea rates dropped by 52%.
Wow. They successfully transformed hand washing from a grim chore into a slightly pleasurable, immediate sensory experience that reinforced the habit loop.
This principle is used everywhere in marketing. Wrigley added flavors like spearmint to chewing gum because the tasty flavor and the feeling of a fresh mouth provided immediate reinforcement.
It makes the act of chewing satisfying. Toothpaste manufacturers did the same thing with strong mint flavors.
It's not to improve effectiveness, but to create that intense, clean mouthfeel that makes brushing more pleasurable and satisfying now.
Another method for creating immediate satisfaction is through visual, quantitative measurement. This provides clear, instant evidence of progress.
And that powerfully reinforces the behavior. This is where the famous paperclip strategy comes in.
The stockbroker, Trent Dearsmid, a rookie in the early 90s, he set up 2 jars on his desk.
One jar was filled with 120 paper clips. After each sales call, regardless of the outcome of the call, he would move one paper clip from the full jar to the empty jar.
And he kept dialing until the jar was empty.
Moving that paper clip was an immediate, satisfying reward, a visual, tangible representation that he'd completed one unit of work and was making progress.
It provided the instant gratification his brain craved. And within 18 months, he was highly successful.
He was, bringing in $5 million to the firm, driven by this simple, satisfying system.
The lesson is clear. Whether it's moving paper clips, using a workout log, or checking off a visible progress bar, visual measurement reinforces the behavior and gives our ancient brain that small hit of instant gratification it needs to prioritize the action again tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Okay, now we can move to some advanced tactics. For those looking not just to start a habit, but to sustain greatness. We start with the inversion of the third law. Make it difficult, a commitment device.
Right. We talked about making good habits easy. Well, sometimes success is about making bad habits nearly impossible.
A commitment device is such a brilliant strategy. It's a choice you make in the present that limits your choices or controls your actions in the future when you know temptation will strike.
You outsource the willpower to the system itself.
The most dramatic historical example is Victor Hugo. He was facing an impossible deadline to finish The Hunchback of Notre Dame and was notorious for procrastination.
So to force himself to write, he collected all of his clothes, locked them away in a chest, and hid the key.
Leaving himself with nothing but a large shawl to wear.
He had imposed high friction on the undesirable habit, which was leaving the house for distractions. He literally couldn't step outside without suitable clothing, forcing himself to write furiously.
And he delivered the book 2 weeks early. He recognized that future Hugo would be weaker than present Hugo, so he locked future Hugo into the desired outcome.
Another fantastic application of this is automation, which automates honesty and responsibility.
Like John H. Patterson, who ran a small supply store in Ohio in the mid-1800s, he was struggling because his employees were stealing small amounts of cash.
They could easily alter the open receipts. So Patterson eventually bought a new invention, Ritty's incorruptible cashier, the first cash register.
And the machine automatically locked the cash and receipts inside after each transaction, creating a permanent, verifiable record. It automated honesty.
And Patterson's business immediately went from losing money to making a $5,000 profit. He automated his bad habit employee theft out of existence by making it difficult.
And modern examples are crucial for the learner. We automate responsibility with automatic savings plan enrollment, where money is deducted before we even see it.
It eliminates the moment of choice. We automate difficult behavior avoidance by using website blockers to cut off social media browsing during work hours.
When we hand a habit over to the authority of technology or pre-commitment, we free up massive amounts of time and mental energy for growth.
Absolutely.
Next, we have to address the elephant in the room when discussing maximizing potential: genetics, talent, and finding the right game.
The source is very clear on this. Success is maximized not just by working hard, but by choosing the field where your specific genes, skills, and even physical build are advantageous.
This is beautifully illustrated by the contrast between two dominant athletes, swimmer Michael Phelps and distance runner Hicham El Guerrouj.
Both are world-class champions, but their bodies are built for entirely different pursuits. They're almost like inverse designs. Phelps, the swimmer, has a remarkably long torso and short legs.
The perfect build for hydrodynamic efficiency and pulling through water.
And El Guerrouj, the champion runner, has incredibly long legs and a short upper body, which is ideal for powerful, efficient distance running.
Phelps is 7 inches taller, yet they wear the exact same length inseam.
Think about that. If they switched sports, they would fail spectacularly. Phelps, at nearly 200 pounds, would be doomed as a distance runner against the ultralight El Guerrouj.
So the takeaway is profound. Genes predispose, but they don't predetermine. What matters is the environment.
The environment determines the suitability of our genes. If you are a fish, stop trying to climb the tree. You have to choose a game that favors your strengths.
And this makes the system attractive to those who feel they lack traditional talent, because it teaches them how to define the game strategically.
To figure out your right game, the source suggests utilizing the explore-exploit trade-off. This is an advanced strategy borrowed from computer science and economics.
So in the beginning of a new activity, you should explore broadly.
Like dating, testing out different career paths, or taking a liberal arts course load in college. You try out many possibilities and identify where your natural strengths overlap with market opportunities. You're just gathering information.
But once you find the best solution, or the combination of skills where you show the most promise,
You shift your focus almost entirely to exploiting it, committing deeply, doubling down, and building atomic habits in that specific area. If you have infinite time, exploring is great. If your time is limited, you must shift to exploiting the best solution you've found, and quickly.
and you don't necessarily have to be the best at one single thing, you can win by being the best combination of things.
Yes. The example of Scott Adams, the Dilbert cartoonist, is fantastic here.
Yeah.
He wasn't the best artist. Thousands of people draw better. He wasn't the funniest stand-up comedian.
But the combination of being able to draw better than most people, write witty jokes, and have a deep background and understanding of the corporate business environment.
From his prior job, made him absolutely exceptional. He eliminated his competition by combining skills, creating a category of one.
He won by defining the game differently. He didn't try to compete on pure drawing skill. He competed on the unique fusion of business insight and humor expressed through symbol drawing.
Finding a more favorable environment transforms the odds of success.
Finally, we address the invisible killer of sustained greatness: boredom. The greatest threat to success isn't failure, it's the monotonous middle ground of the journey.
And that's where the Goldilocks rule comes in.
The Goldilocks rule states that peak motivation occurs when we're working on tasks that are right on the edge of our current abilities.
Challenging, but still manageable. If a task is too easy, we get bored, our attention wanders. If it's too hard, we get discouraged, feel incompetent, and quit.
We're motivated when we are successfully navigating a challenge that is just slightly beyond our grasp. It puts us into a state of flow.
But that flow state doesn't happen every day.
Yeah.
In fact, most days are just boring.
And this is where we have to fall in love with the boredom of consistent effort. Steve Martin's 15-year path to becoming a comedic icon is the perfect illustration.
He spent those years relentlessly performing short, often 5-minute acts in empty clubs in Los Angeles. He was continually adjusting and refining his material, often using the same jokes for weeks.
He wasn't focused on how inspired he felt every night. His goal was simply to never break the chain of performing and writing jokes every day.
Anyone can work hard when they feel motivated or inspired. But it is the ability to keep showing up and executing the task when the work isn't exciting, when it's monotonous, that separates the professional from the amateur.
Professionals stick to the schedule. Amateurs let life get in the way.
The Goldilocks rule applies to the task, but the success of the system relies on the love of the routine itself. The reward becomes the simple act of showing up.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner seeking change? It means that those massive, overwhelming goals are secondary, and often they're counterproductive.
The system you install, the daily routine, the environment, the friction reduction, that is the primary driver of success.
We've broken down the 4 laws of building a powerful system. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying.
By making these small daily actions appealing and frictionless, you create a system that reinforces your desired identity. It makes self-improvement not just possible, but, inevitable.
And as you build these systems, a critical final tactic is regular reflection and review. Because the systems we build are so powerful, you don't want to become so obsessed with tracking that you end up measuring the wrong thing.
Exactly. Moving in the wrong direction. We need to be aware of the pitfalls of Goodhart's law. When a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure.
Give us an example of that.
Okay, if your goal is to lose weight, that's the measure. And you only track pounds on the scale, that's the target. You might just dehydrate yourself or compromise muscle mass. You're achieving the target, but not the desired health outcome.
Or in a business context, if a customer service team is measured only on call time.
They will rush customers off the phone, lowering satisfaction. They were measuring efficiency, but losing sight of the ultimate goal, which is customer value.
So the reflection process ensures you're spending time on the right things and fine-tuning your habits to align with your true identity.
And we see this reflection process built into the routines of top performers. Marathoner Eliud Kipchoge takes daily notes on his training and recovery to find tiny areas for improvement.
Comedian Chris Rock tests hundreds of jokes on stage, recording which bits work, and then reviews the data methodically. Executives keep decision journals to review why they made major choices later on.
It prevents those cognitive biases from creeping in.
Periodic reflection gives you the necessary perspective, Worrying too much about every daily choice is like looking at yourself in the mirror from an inch away. You lose sight of the bigger picture.
Reviewing your system ensures you keep your identity small, focusing on who you are becoming, rather than being consumed by one massive, immediate, and potentially flawed target.
The change starts now, not with a massive motivational lightning strike, but with one tiny, irreducible unit of change.
The goal is not perfection, it's commitment to the process.
The ultimate final thought, then, is simple. Don't wait for motivation to strike. Install the system first. What single commitment device, what single reduction in friction, or what new obvious cue can you install today to make future success easier and more attractive?
Start small, stay consistent, and let time do the heavy lifting.
We'll catch you next time for the deep dive.